Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch Contenders Roundup 2020. So, last time we looked at the seeding tournaments for Europe and South America. Now it's time to take a look at the chunky region. It's time to take a look at North America. Now, why is North America so chunky? Because last year, North America was divided up into East and West divisions. This year, that will no longer happen. There will be one North American division. So, the seeding has got to happen so we know who is going where in terms of contenders, the main tournament, contenders trials, and the opened division. So, there are a lot of teams to go through. In this seeding tournament we had the Atlanta Academy, Team Envy, Third Impact, Triumph, Second Wind, Phase 2, Uprising Academy, Sky Foxes, Montreal Rebellion, Tea Party, Square One, Simplicity, Noble, and Revival. Yes, a lot of teams, many more than in any other region right now. So, in round 1, 2 teams received byes. These were the 2 teams that were top of the seeds last year. So the 2 teams that won each division. This is Team Envy and ATL or Atlanta Academy. Now, they got byes because basically there was no team to take on. That's why. The rest of the teams had to fight through round 1 though. So, Sky Foxes would take on Montreal Rebellion. Montreal Rebellion is the academy team of the Toronto Defiant, if you didn't know. Sky Foxes had been doing very well during the Breakable Barriers tournaments and the Mayhem Winter Classic. So Sky Foxes are a pretty strong team coming into the season with a very decent roster. They do manage to see off the Montreal Rebellion 3-0 and make them drop down to the losers bracket. Triumph would take on Noble. This would be a 3-1 win for Noble, knocking Triumph down to the losers bracket. Then we had Second Wind taking on Simplicity. This was a very one-sided match with Second Wind running out 3-0 winners. Second Wind are going to crop up quite a bit during this tournament. Then we had the Uprising Academy taking on Tea Party. This was a convincing win for Tea Party with the Uprising Academy dropping down to the losers bracket. Then we had Third Impact taking on Revival. Revival running out 3-0 winners here. Third Impact actually had a pretty good Breakable Barriers tournament, so for them to be losing heavily to Revival says quite a bit about where things are at right now. And then we had Phase 2 taking on Square One. Square One would win this one 3-0, knocking Phase 2 pretty brutally down to the losers bracket. In the losers bracket, 2 teams, again the higher seeded teams, would receive byes into the next round. This was Montreal Rebellion going into round 2 and Uprising Academy. Then we had Triumph taking on Simplicity. This would be the end of Simplicity's tournament with Triumph winning 3-0. And then we had Third Impact taking on Phase 2. And this would be the end of Phase 2's tournament with Third Impact knocking them out 3-0. Then we had the quarterfinals of the winners bracket, where we saw the ATL Academy, Atlanta Academy, taking on Sky Foxes. This was an interesting and very big test for Sky Foxes. Obviously, Atlanta Academy are at the pinnacle of contenders right now, being the current holders of one of the divisions from last year, and being the runners-up from the Gauntlet last year as well, which is no mean feat when they actually thrashed Runaway in that Gauntlet. No mean feat to do that. But Sky Foxes managed to stick with the ATL Academy, but they do lose though, losing 3-2 to ATL. ATL are considered as one of the bigger teams and one of the favourites going into the season, but as you'll see later on, that may be mixed up slightly now. But Sky Foxes will be dropping down to losers bracket. Then we had Noble taking on Second Wind. Second Wind would win this one 3-1. Again, Second Wind looking pretty strong right now. We had then Team Envy taking on Tea Party. Team Envy looking darn good, and remember they've now got Taimu from the Dallas Fuel. Team Envy have got a good mix of new talent as well as really good experience, so Team Envy are definitely one to look out for going into 2020. Tea Party dropping down to the losers bracket, and then we had Revival taking on Square One. Again, this was a really close one, but Revival came up short, losing 3-2 to Square One. And Revival would drop down to the losers bracket, where they would take on Montreal Rebellion, who got a bye through the losers bracket round 1. This was the end of Revival's tournament, losing 3-0 to the Montreal Rebellion. I think that's a pretty actually disappointing performance from Revival, considering their performance in the Mayhem Winter Classic and during the Breakable Barriers tournaments. I think there was quite a hope around Revival. Revival is a bit of the roster from the ex-Mayhem Academy squad, so I think Revival has got potential, but there's some work to do there. Montreal Rebellion move on to losers bracket round 3. And then we had Tea Party taking on Triumph. Convincing win for Triumph here, beating Tea Party 3-0 and ending their tournament. Then we had Noble taking on the Uprising Academy. This would be the first casualty of an Overwatch League Academy, with the Uprising Academy losing narrowly 3-2 to Noble. Noble going through to the losers bracket round 3, and then Sky Foxes taking on Third Impact. I would expect Sky Foxes to beat Third Impact, and that they do, 3-1. Third Impact drop out of the seeding tournament at that point. Losers bracket round 3 then. Montreal Rebellion taking on Triumph. Triumph finding their feet now in the seeding tournament, beating the Montreal Rebellion 3-1. Montreal Rebellion, another Academy team to bite the dust in this tournament, and drop out. Then we had Noble taking on Sky Foxes. This will be the end of Noble's tournament, with Sky Foxes winning 3-1. Sky Foxes are going to be a pretty decent team going into 2020, and a team that could cause some upsets, as you will see a little bit later on. So, moving back to the winners bracket, then we had the semi-finals to contend with. ATL Academy taking on Second Wind. Now, I would not have predicted this. Second Wind managed to beat the ATL Academy 3-1. Now, Atlanta Academy were dominant last year in NA, and they were actually really good, as I said just now, in the Gauntlet. So they would have been one of my favourites to go on and be really good during this 2020 Season 1. For them to be losing to Second Wind is a big surprise to me. Very big hog for Second Wind, you could say, moving on to the winners finals of the winners bracket. ATL Academy dropping down to losers bracket round 4. And then we had Team Envy taking on Square One. Again, Team Envy in this tournament are yet to drop a map, and that continues against Square One, with Square One dropping down to the losers bracket in pretty brutal fashion, losing 3-0 to Team Envy. Team Envy looking like a darn organised team right now, and one of the better, if not the best teams going into this 2020 Season 1. Then we had losers bracket round 4, where we would see the Atlanta Academy taking on Triumph. Triumph had had a very good run through the losers bracket since losing to Noble, but Triumph would end their tournament here, losing to ATL Academy 3-1. I wouldn't be necessarily surprised by that score, but I think Triumph have potential to go on and do a lot better in 2020 Season 1. I think they could do that. It'll be interesting to see what they come out with. And then Square One would take on Sky Foxes. This was a really close match, but as I would have thought, Sky Foxes do run out 3-2 winners. Sky Foxes, again, looking pretty powerful. But I would never have said Sky Foxes are quite as powerful as what's coming up next. They took on ATL Academy in the losers semi-finals, and they butchered them. 3-0. Yeah, the team that came second in the Gauntlet, only to Element Mystic, Sky Foxes beat them 3-0. Yeah, there is big quality in that Sky Foxes squad, so do not put anything past them. ATL Academy, that is, I'm surprised, to be quite honest with you. I think there's some work to be done at ATL, that's for sure, if they want to be where they were last season. So, winners final then, and we saw Second Wind taking on Team Envy. Second Wind had had an incredible run through this winners bracket. Team Envy, however, were not dropping any maps until now, though. Although it wasn't enough to Second Wind. Second Wind do pick up a map against Team Envy, but Team Envy run out 3-1 winners, and Team Envy would move on to the grand final, knocking Second Wind down to the losers final. No shame on Second Wind though, because Second Wind have had a really good run during this playoff. And they would take on Sky Foxes, who had just obviously slaughtered the ATL Academy in the losers final. This one's an interesting one, with Second Wind running out 3-1 winners over Sky Foxes. Again, this demonstrates the fact that Second Wind are looking like a pretty powerful team going into 2020 Season 1, with them able to beat current champions ATL Academy from the East region, I believe. ATL were in Season 2 last year. And them being able to defeat one of the teams that has actually stormed a lot of teams recently, Sky Foxes. So, Second Wind looking really good, but they set up a rematch against Team Envy in the grand final of this seeding tournament. It really didn't go their way. It actually went worse than the winners final. Team Envy, again, would only drop one map during this tournament. Team Envy run out 3-0 winners over Second Wind and win the NA Contenders seeding tournament for 2020. Team Envy, this will make them probably the favourites for Season 1 of 2020. And I am going to watch with some very great interest in this NA Contenders season, because there are a lot of good teams here. A lot of good teams. And I mean a lot of teams that could probably storm other regions like Europe. So yeah, there's a lot of quality in NA right now in the contenders, and we will see where everything goes. But there are a lot of teams to go through in terms of the placing then. So, first to fourth, which is Team Envy, Second Wind, Sky Foxes and ATL Academy, all wrap up spots in the main contenders tournament. Then we have 5th through to 12th, who will be taking spots in the Trials tournament. This is Triumph, Square One, Montreal Rebellion, Noble, Third Impact, Uprising Academy, Tea Party, and then Revival just squeaking in there. And 13th and 14th will be going into the Open Division playoffs. This is Phase 2 and Simplicity. Those are the two teams that went out in the losers bracket round 1. So, those are the 14 teams that took part in Contenders 2020 North America seeding. Boy oh boy, that's a big region. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all takes shape going into the Overwatch Contenders season. Obviously, we have got to get through Open Division and Contenders Trials yet before we get to the actual Contenders season. The Contenders season is much, much different to what it was last year and the year before. I have done a video on the format for Contenders for this year. It's divided up into weeks. It should be really interesting, and darn, there are some good teams in Tier 2 right now, and I hope it stays that way because we've lost a lot of teams, especially in 2019, really storied history teams, and I think we've got some really good quality going around right now, and I hope it stays that way. Blizzard, please promote Contenders, please, and be sensible with where you broadcast it as well, because if you move it to YouTube, that could be a problem. But I'm going to leave it here for Overwatch Contenders Roundup. I don't know when the next one will be, actually. It'll probably be a little while away now because there's a lot to get through, because Open Division has got to get through first before we get to back to Contenders now, which should be very interesting. And I can't talk properly, so I should probably end this video, shouldn't I? But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.